everybody, and welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast, day one of our high school football extravaganza here on our show. I'm Mac Brennan, it's Mike Wolfgang. We're orange today because it's the first day of fall, and Mike, It feels like fall now. We hit day one. I'm looking at the forecast. We're not hitting 70 degrees for another 10 days. I mean, we go from like 88 degrees 2 days ago, and now we're not hitting 70 again. Crazy, but I love it.
Personally, I know when the weather's starting to change, when my allergies start bothering me. So, like today, like it's a little bit cold, but it's still gonna be. You're just like I said, you're gonna have hints of it. So we'll go by here. It's a fun time of year, though.
It is, man, and it's great. And you want to know why it's great? Because we're in the last half of the season for high school football, and we have had a very fun year. Some upsets, some surprises. And we definitely have some state contenders in our ranks this season here on YSN. It's going to make for a fun finale. I'm sure we're going to see some upsets here in the final few weeks of the year, but we're getting down late October, November football. It's coming. It's right around the corner, baby. I'm excited for it. Game one of the night here for us on your sports network. Kicking it off tomorrow. Alliance and Salem, both teams coming in at 4-1. We're starting big right out the gate. Alliance coming in here, Salem coming in. I think we can guarantee one thing. It's going to be a great game. It's a Northeastern Buckeye Conference matchup between the two. And you look at this conference, this is one of the best conferences rolling around with Carrollton at 4-1, West Branch at 4-1, Salem at 4-1, and Alliance at 4-1. Drop out the bottom two teams, they're out of the running already. But this top half of the conference, man, it is playing so strong. In this, we enter into the final 5 games, and we already have a potential, conference decider in this matchup. It's going to be a rough back half of the season for both of these teams. It's a very hard schedule, but Salem, Alliance, Mike, what are your thoughts going into this one?
Obviously, it's an intriguing matchup, too. Like, the records are even. Both teams are playing similar styles of football, going off, look at the results of the games. I think we talked about it on Tuesday when we were talking recaps last week. Kind of previewing a little bit of this week, I think this is one you have an eye on if you're looking at games to watch on ysnlive.com. This is definitely one because teams that are they're both teams that are getting it done in different ways and kind of similar to each other, but in different ways overall. Close, blowout, large margins. So I think it's gonna be a fun game. I think it has potential to be a low scoring game because you're gonna have two good teams going at it defensively too. But it's definitely a fun one.
My thoughts coming in. Alliance has the better offense. I mean, you can see it.
Yep.
5 games, 200 points. Salem, 5 games, 150 points. So there is a gap there. But then on the defensive side, Salem's going to have that edge. In 5 games, they let up just 96 points. Alliance, 121. So there's a clear gap between offense and defense for both of these teams. So I think in the way that we've seen both of these groups play on the season, Alliance, I mean, look at their scores. Very offensive oriented, and They have some all right defense, but they're giving up a lot of possessions that if they were a standout team that would go through and roll over Salem, they would not be giving up 28 points to Niles or 20 to Bedford, 25 to Norwalk. What they did last week against Canton Central Catholic, I think, was the real stamp like, hey, we are the real deal. We've had our struggles. We figured it out. And now they have to come in here and prove that again against a Crestview team that I think similarly hasn't given us that stamp game, that stamp that says, hey, we are legit this year. A walk-off against a 1-5 team or 1-4 team last week in Padua. I know they were on the road. Props to the kicker. But that's not the kind of momentum you needed coming into this game against Alliance, especially after you lost the prior week to Canton Central Catholic, a team this Alliance group just beat 34-7. So you've seen a lot of close games for Salem. Now the numbers aren't looking on your side. I'd be very cautious. The one thing that I have going for them, especially good defense, and they're playing at home. And when you play at home, everybody knows your offense plays a little bit better unless you're Lowellville. Then it doesn't matter. But this Salem team, they're ranked 22nd in Division IV football. And, coming in here against a team that's top 20 in Division III, this is a really big step up for Salem to make in going to try and play ahead, jump up a division when your strength of schedule is ranked at -7.2, Alliance is 2.8. So there is clear gaps between these two teams, Mike. And I think you come into this very cautious if you're Salem. Alliance is going to be the favorite. You got to play the underdog in your home stadium.
That's the thing too. Coming back home, that's kind of we'll see how they react to is having a close one that you barely won, like you said, probably a situation they didn't want to be in. winning a walk-off field goal, but you're coming home against a team that is better than you, but still, you have the comfort of being at home. Well, it's remaining to be seen because I think we talked about Tuesday. This game starts the next 3 that they have at home against, games that you probably should take, and it starts tomorrow night with this one. That this is the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones out of those 3 that you got to get. And then you close out the road with 2, or close out the season with 2 road games. So this last half of that for them really does start tomorrow night with this big one,
and they need to get it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna in SIBO Stadium. It's homecoming as well, so big crowds. Lots of alumni in there. Unfortunately, Mike, I think those alumni are getting sent home a little sour. I think Alliance is coming in there, ruining homecoming night. They have been really good. And when we've seen some recent struggles from this Salem team in terms of production, and they've had a few question marks. I think week 1 against Crestview, 17-7. Everybody thought those Rebels were going to be a better team than they are. But now I think you have to look back and go, 10-point win over a team that, his only win is against Campbell. I think you do kind of have to question what that win has done with this season. Wins over Beaver Local was good. East Liverpool at the time was a 1-1 team, but they haven't shown us anything. Canton Central Catholic is good. Paddle was a 1-win team. Right now, I don't think I've seen enough from Salem to say that they are going to do this. I hope they do. I hope they come in here, have a great homecoming night, come out with the win, give YSN the dub as well. But with the recent struggles and what Alliance just did to a team that beat Salem, that handed Salem their only loss, I have to go with Alliance, whose only loss is against Uniontown Lake, who is 5-0 and is ranked top 40 in the state of Ohio.
Right.
So I have to go Alliance.
I kind of agree that with the fact that, homecoming games are tricky because sometimes you come out fired up, you're clicking on everything, you're getting the job done, you're doing your assignments. But we've seen a lot of times when like you said, when lettermen are there, for, alumni and all those people and all the people that parents are there for people that are for the homecoming game, sometimes it gets a distraction. And I just kind of wonder if after last week's game, how close it was, although they did win, a win's a win, but as close as it wasn't, they didn't want it to be. How are they going to come back home when there's all this, outside stuff that's going to be on attention for this game? So I think for that reason, I kind of got to go Alliance as well. It's not only the fact they're a better football team, but like I said, it's that's just a lot going on for a team that's been struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Next game for us, it might be the single biggest game in the state of Ohio this week. Austintown Fitch on the road against the greatest dynasty in Ohio's history in Massillon, Washington. Fitch comes in 5-0, playing maybe the best football around. Massillon, Washington, they lost week 1 to Archbishop Moeller. Last week, they took down one of the top teams in the state of Ohio, a team that has replaced them in some people's eyes as one of the top dynasties in the state's history in St. Ed's out of Cleveland. Massillon, Washington, if anybody is going to take down Fitch this season, it is this game. I look nowhere else. Strongsville, Wadsworth, Boardman, Warren G. Harding, you're good teams. You're not Massillon, Washington. If anybody is going to pull this, it's going to be Massillon. But Fitch is playing outstanding football at the moment. And, we keep saying it. How do we ever doubt this team? Can you even doubt this team at this point with how well they are playing? This is a top 5 battle in Division II. Fitch is ranked 5th. Massillon, Washington is ranked 2nd. Strength of schedule, heavily favoring Massillon, Washington, as their strength of schedule, 2nd in Division II behind Archbishop Hoban at 35.1. Fitch is still outstanding, though, with 15.1, especially for playing in here in Youngstown, where we normally see teams going around, the best groups have a strength of schedule of around 10. To see Fitch up here at 15, it's really outstanding for what they've done, but I don't think it compares at all to the uphill battle that Massillon, Washington has had to play against. And Massillon, Washington, being from Akron for me, this is a team I heard of a lot more. I had never heard of Fitch until I came into this Youngstown region. I've been very impressed with Fitch ever since I heard of them. And, now they're like, wow, okay, yeah, that's one of the best teams out there.
And everything, pretty much.
Great facilities, yeah, great sports, every category. They're outstanding. But growing up, everybody I know knows Massillon, Washington football. They are that great. And heck, their stadium is Paul Brown Stadium. If that doesn't show you the excellence that comes out of this region, I don't know what will. I mean, their former coach is Paul Brown, the Paul Brown. This is a team that's won over 20 state championships in football. They have the resume, they have the record, and now they're coming in with momentum. This is game of the century written all over it right now. If you're in this Youngstown, Austintown area, every eye needs to be glued on this game, because if Fitch pulls this upset, it is the biggest upset in Division II this year, and it might be one of the biggest upsets in the Youngstown region's history.
The one thing with Fitch too, again, I'm not. This might sound like I'm criticizing him, but I'm not. But just the last 2 games they played, Alec, it just feels like they jumped out to larger leads, and they kind of, even though they still won, they kind of let teams back into it. Maybe it's a part of playing your second groups, second and third teams, getting some guys some reps. But that's one thing I kind of worry about with this game a little bit, because you're playing a team that is really good, and good as if not better than you, and you're going on the road too. That's another hard thing. So that's one thing. If you had to find something that's kind of worrisome with Fitch overall, but especially in this game, I'd probably point to that.
This is just an absolute battle. I mean, if you're looking for football, this is it. They're going into a stadium. Keep this in mind. In Paul Brown Tiger Stadium, it fits 16,000 people, almost 17,000. That is, I think, bigger than Kent State. This is football town, Ohio. This is where the best of the best go to play. This, like you were saying, those last 2 games, they have been really good to start. But along with you, I'm concerned that they've been letting people back in. That is the biggest concern, I think, for me. If you're going to go into a team like this with the great starts that you've had, you can't let off. I know they know that. Everybody out here knows that. It's going to be varsity all the way. Everybody in here knows that. We're not trying to point out the obvious. But I think we have to give that reminder of why we're talking so heavily towards Massillon, Washington, because they just beat one of the top teams in the state last week, 31-28. It was close. That's the closest anyone's ever played them this season, besides Archbishop Moeller out of Cincinnati, who I think was in the state championship last year, and they lost that 49-31. Since that, this Massillon, Washington team has been fantastic. And on the season, it hasn't been defense that's let them down. They've scored 31-plus points in every single game they played, including the loss to Moeller. So, winner of this game, it probably eclipsing 40 points. Fitch has really good defense. To me, in a game like this, pretty much throw defense out. I don't think – this is high school. Your defense is only so great. Most of the time, it's who's going to have more offense in this game. I think that's what it's going to come down to. This isn't going to be a shootout like we saw between – it's not going to be a low-scoring game like we saw between Cheney and Canfield, 2 great defensive teams. These are offensive juggernauts with some of the best play calling and play designs in the region. Some of the best coordinators. These are guys that we're looking for when we're talking, hey, Youngstown State's getting a new coach, or Cincinnati, or Toledo, or Bowling Green. When one of those smaller FBS schools is looking for head coaches, they're coming down to both of these schools, and this is where they're starting to pick from, especially Massillon, Washington. The amount of NFL players Massillon, Washington has sent out is insane. They have sent so much talent to the next level. This is the biggest game of the century. I'm putting on a game of the century between Fitch and Washington. It might not be for them, but for a team like Fitch, they've done so much this season. You beat Canton McKinley at home. You did that. You beat a top team in Canton McKinley who plays at the Hall of Fame
38-14 too.
Right. They ran them over. They established themselves, hey, we can hang with the Canton boys. Now you have to go play against the Massillon boys as well. And we saw Massillon Perry slip up earlier, I believe, against one of our YSN schools. Fitch has to force the same problems. This you're not going to see anything harder if you're Fitch until playoff time. This is it. If Fitch wants to cement themselves now as the team to beat in Youngstown, they won't slip off the number 1 spot in the power rankings if they beat Fitch this weekend. If you beat Fitch Friday, if you beat Massillon Washington Friday, Fitch is the team to beat in the state of Ohio for Division II outside of Archbishop Moeller, depending on how this game goes.
This might kind of – I actually am –
winner's probably a 1 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah. I think this is going to get my way to pick here, because we often talk about in every sport that, I'm not going to pick against a team unless I have evidence to do so. I feel like I've been saying what's Fitch this year in terms of, our rankings in this area. But next level, you got to go with Massillon, Washington, because, okay, well, Fitch hasn't given us a reason around here. Massillon doesn't give us a reason to pick against them. So that's kind of why I got to pick them too as well.
Right. Their only losses to the top team in Division II
Right.
football and Archbishop Moeller.
And I know every year's different too, but it's just like, again, if you want to go off recencies, you can't go against them in this matchup.
And by the way, Archbishop Moeller ranked the number 1 team in the entire state of Ohio.
Yeah.
Washington's ranked 5th. Hoban, basically Division II football, Division I football, this region, top teams there are the top teams in the state. Moeller's actually Division I team, so keep that in mind. This is best of the best right now. I can't wait for it. I really do hope that Fitch pulls this upset, and they can do it. They can go into Paul Brown Stadium and pull this level of upset. But you're going up against the top 5 team in the state of Ohio. You got to show up. Put everything down. If you lose half your players in this game to injury, you have to go do it, because this is Fitch's shot at being a state power. You've been a regional power. You have that going for you. In every sport in this region, people know Fitch. Now you can go out and tell the rest of the state, hi, Youngstown football is the best football. We just beat the powerhouse in Massillon, Washington.
I'm definitely
that's what that's what Moeller's been doing down in Cincinnati. And now people know their name. Now it's Fitch's time if they can pull this. But I'm going Massillon, Washington, until those big dogs finally die. I ain't calling it down there. That is the program around. But I'm hoping Fitch proves me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm hoping Fitch pulls this.
Yeah, and you're against a team that's from your area too.
Yeah, lot closer to my area than Fitch ever was. So this is big game for me. It's old versus new.
Yeah.
All right, we go out of the 2 biggest games potentially of the weekend. Now we go a game that is somehow up for Cleveland Browns high school game of the week. Benedictine at Boardman. Benedictine is 0-5. Boardman is 3-2. With Massillon versus Fitch going on, I don't know how this one's getting the props, but it is.
And hey, another sneaky one too that's not getting too much talk about is Jordan South Range.
Yeah, same there.
So that's another one that.
Fortunately, that's on tomorrow's show, Mike. We're not gonna be able to talk about that.
Right, but I'm saying that of the weekend, yeah.
Right. But Benedictine coming into this game 0-5. Obviously, they've had a few defensive letdowns, but again, you look at the region that they play in. They are a Cleveland team. They're going up against the likes of Buchtel, DeMatha, Cleveland Heights, Central Catholic out of Toledo, and Walsh Jesuit. I mean, they're not going up against small name schools. These are big name schools, in the state of Ohio. Boardman, they're taking on the big names though from this region. In those first 3 weeks, they were rough in Mooney, Cheney, and Jackson, and they beat Mooney. They didn't get Cheney or Jackson, but then they won the games they were supposed to. To me, Boardman coming in here, this is a game they are supposed to win, and I think they do. I don't think that they have any problems with this Benedictine team. It might take them a half to get there. It might be, 14-10, 17-10 at the half. And, I think Boardman's going to lead this most of the way through. I think Benedictine might give them a shot till halftime. But I think this Boardman team is good enough that they pull away in that second half. And also, I believe they bring home $2,000 if they get nominated for the high school game of the week. So go vote for that on Cleveland Browns high school game of the week. Just type that into Google, nominate this game for it. And if Boardman wins, then they take home $2,000 for their football program.
Yeah, let's hope for that. But with Benedictine, like you said, 0-5, played some tough games. But for me, if you're Boardman, this is a game. You're at home against an 0-5 team. Look at the record. I know you shouldn't do that sometimes, but looking at that, being at home, you should win this game because the last part of the schedule, it's tough with Harding, Dover, with Fitch and Canfield to close it out. So you got to win this one. That's a pretty tough way to finish out. So I got to go Boardman.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at Dover, Fitch, and Canfield. Dover and Canfield are going up against each other. That's actually one of our next few games that we're going to be talking about, and that's going to be one heck of a game. Also, another one kind of flying under the radar with obviously the Washington on the schedule against Fitch. But yeah, like you're saying, must-win football. Got to do it. Harding's a 1-4 squad, so if you take these next 2 weeks, you can guarantee yourselves a $500 a year if you can win these 2 weeks. And then you get to go out with reckless abandon and try and make the playoffs against Dover, Fitch, and Canfield.
And Harding's played some tough teams, too. Don't let their record fool you.
But if Boardman can take these next 2, they put themselves in a spot where if they can pull the upsets, then it's all theirs for their taking. They control their destiny at the moment in terms of making the playoffs.
Yeah, they do. It starts now.
course, they choose 2 to 3 o'clock to start mowing. I see how it is.
Well, I mean, it's looking like
it's about to rain as well, and now they decide to mow. So
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Hopefully, it's not too loud.
No, we're good.
But who's your pick here, Boardman or Benedictine?
I like Boardman at home.
I'm finally going with one of the YSN schools. That's right. I took two out of towners in Alliance and Massillon, Washington. I got Boardman.
Man,
next
traitor.
Game, I know, whatever. It's the one I'm on. Hey, what can they say? I'm an Akron guy.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, Akronites, they're famous for turning their backs on teams that supported them for the first 10 years of their career.
Yeah.
LeBron. I just had to throw that one out there. I knew everybody was thinking it. Yeah.
2 times, not just once.
Right. I know everybody was thinking it, so I had to. Campbell Memorial coming in at 1-4 to Liberty's homecoming weekend. Liberty 0-4, had COVID issues last week, had to cancel their game against Crestview. And I can tell you, coming into this game, I do not have high hopes for a good one. I think that this thing is going to be 17-13, something ugly, maybe 16-14. I think, in fact, it was September 18th, 2020, last time I called Liberty football. I don't remember who it was against, but the final score, I think, was 16-14 in that game. And I'll tell you, it was cold. It was ugly to watch, but it was really fun. Turns out it was against Campbell, I think. And actually, final score was 14-12. So there you have it. I'll be right back to where I started. That was the second game I ever broadcasted here on YSN. But like it was in that game, in that season, Liberty finished 1-6. That year, Campbell finished 2-5. I think we're on similar trajectories with terms of win counts. I don't have high hopes. It's a hard schedule for really both of these teams to finish out. Campbell's got Garfield, Champion, Newton Falls, LeBray. They might steal one against LeBray, but I don't even know about that. And the schedule is the same for Liberty: Champion, Newton Falls, LeBray, and then Garfield. So it's not an easy ride. If Liberty is going to win this season, it has to come on homecoming.
Yeah, and both these teams are they're in the same type of category. They just don't know where they're at right now. And I think it's kind of been this way for a couple of years with these teams. Like you even said, the year you started calling 2 years ago, they had down years, and they've pretty much had for a while. These scores for Campbell are I feel bad because they're losing games that, like, when we were younger, they weren't usually getting beat this bad in some with Liberty. And both these teams usually have big athletes too, and I think it's kind of been lacking the last couple of years. They don't have their big, athletic speedsters on the outside and in the backfield too. They have kind of gotten away from that. So I think that's one big thing why these teams are starting to struggle. I really don't know who to pick. I guess I'll go since my dad went to Campbell, I'll pick Campbell, so I'll go that route.
This is one of those games. I think it's a coin flip. Whoever has the ball last might score, or
It's gonna be ugly.
Whoever has the ball last and throws a pick six is going to win the game. So it's going to be something ugly. It's going to be interesting for sure, and it's going to be cold.
It's not going to be. Go ahead.
What's that?
It's not going to be a clean game. It's going to be a sloppy game because both these teams are struggling. So it's not going to be a big, physical game. It's just going to be kind of, I think, probably shootout type of game.
I'm taking Liberty. It's homecoming. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here. John Pabellin Jr., # War Eagle. That's Valley Christian. They play in Campbell Stadium. They'll be going up against Leetonia. We're talking about that one on the show tomorrow. I'm right there with them, though. I love them Valley Christian boys. They are top notch.
Yep.
Next game for us, though, Cardinal Mooney. They get revenge on Lutheran East from the basketball season. Now they take on Youngstown East, who comes in 0-5 and have had some serious struggles so far in the year. I don't think you can really doubt that. Mooney has had their own struggles as well. Don't get me wrong, but I think you have to say it's been a tough slate of games for this Cardinal Mooney squad, and they have a realistic chance to finish out probably around 500. Rush, who they have up on the schedule next week, 2-3. Harding is a 1-4 team. Steubenville and Ursuline, though, finish out the season. They can get 3 wins in these next 3 games. They can finish at 500. It's going to be hard. I think they could pull an upset against Steubenville or Ursuline, but I think it has to start here. Mooney has to go out, and unfortunately for East, Mooney has to come out with a statement. They have to put everything down. They won 32-0 last week. Great win for them. Great momentum booster. Now you have to carry it over. You lost 2. Now you got to go back and win 4 in a row. Can you do it? That's the big test for me this season. I'm taking Cardinal Mooney. This is one of those stamp games. Go stamp yourselves out there as a team that we can start looking out towards the future.
And you know what? They have the opportunity because this first half of the season for them, most of their games have been pretty close. You know, they just haven't won them. So I think this one starts tomorrow night. They need to start this one to get a win because, like you said, there's some difficult-ish games coming up. Like I said, I think Harding's a good team. Don't look at the record. I think they're a good team that doesn't show that. Steubenville and Ursuline to close out with a rivalry game. So it starts tonight. I think you got to get this one too because kind of get some momentum. You've had some close losses. That's sometimes messes with your mindset. So I got to go Mooney too.
Wonderful. Next game up, United at 4-1, coming off a big statement win last week against Leetonia. Much needed one, bouncing off the loss from Valley Christian. Now they go into Columbiana, who is 0-5, and they've had it rough. They've had good defense, though, which gives me a little bit of hope because I saw what good defense can do against United, especially when they get caught a little behind on themselves. This United team reminds me of Valley Christian last year. Really, really, really good, but sometimes they're getting down on themselves. And the only thing holding them back is themselves. It's kind of what it felt like in that Valley Christian game. When Valley Christian had the biggest plays, United had letdowns right after it, and it kept feeding towards Valley Christian. So long as they avoid those letdowns, can take these next 4 weeks and really get rolling, they're going to give themselves a shot to have a one-loss season if they can take Southern down in the final week of the season. I got United in this game. I think they're a really good football program. From what I saw against Valley Christian, they don't have anything to worry about as the season rolls on.
Yeah, I'm going to go United as well. And, I'm a big, show me the evidence type of guy. And I think United has showed more often than not that they're a better team this year in this matchup. So like you said, as long as they avoid a letdown in this game, and play strong football towards the end of the year, they'll be good. So I'm going to go United.
I like it. Crestview heading on the road to take on the Brookfield Warriors. I believe Matt Morrison will be on this call Friday night. Brookfield, it's kind of the same story every week. These last 3 weeks, they've scored 47-plus points, and they haven't allowed 14-plus on the season. They haven't allowed more than 2 touchdowns to any team so far this year. I don't think that lets up. They have been so good this year. I don't think I see them slipping up anytime soon. So I got the Warriors.
I haven't seen it this year that they're going to be a team that's I could pick against in this type of matchup with Crestview struggling. Like you said, they're getting it done on both sides with Brookfield. They got athletes on the outside, their defense is getting it done. So they're playing really good football right now. So I'm going to go Brookfield.
All right, next game for us. Actually, I do want to throw this out here. Crestview might have their best chance of the week, though. I think this is a potential trap game for Brookfield. Crestview's coming off now back-to-back weeks that they didn't have to play a football game last Friday. Their game got canceled. I know they were preparing for Liberty, but they got that call pretty early in the week that game was canceled. Those coaches, they got to shift their focus after they couldn't find an opponent to, hey, we got a little bit longer to look at Brookfield. And I don't think you could tell me they weren't doing that. They weren't taking this game very seriously. I think it's been a long week for those coaches to try and get these boys ready. I think it's a trap game for Brookfield. If they come out sluggish, I think it's homecoming, so they're going to have their big parade beforehand, their big parade of cars. They could get caught in this game. I know they got caught, I think it was 2 years ago in their homecoming game. I think they got caught up. So got to watch out. I think this is a trap for them.
I would agree with that if Crestview is home. Because I think that's what a team like that needs is to have a game like that at home against an opponent like Brookfield. But anything can happen. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I would agree more if it was Crestview at home.
East Palestine going on the road into Lisbon against, obviously, the Lisbon Blue Devils. I saw this Lisbon team last week. Boy, they are beat up. Their quarterback is wrapped head to toe like a mummy right now. He has so many bandages on, so many joint wraps to make sure, he's can take a lot of the hits that he's been taking. He had it rough a week ago against Valley Christian. They had 2 players taken out of the game with injuries. This is a beaten up team, and they just went through an absolute juggernaut of a schedule. Toronto, Southern, and Valley Christian in 3 straight weeks. You're talking about it. I don't know if any of those teams, or Toronto is a 1-loss team. They lost last week. So it has been brutal for this Lisbon team, don't get me wrong, But now they come in against the Bulldog team, who obviously they lost last week to Wellsville. I picked them to win that game. The upset didn't happen. But I think the Bulldogs have as good a chance as anybody this week to come in on the road and take this game against the Lisbon team I saw last week. Very down. There wasn't very much energy on the sideline. These last couple weeks have been hard on this group. And now it's a shorter week because they had to play on Saturday since they went up against Valley Christian. So you got 1 day less to prepare, 1 day less of rest. Now I think you go in against a feisty Bulldogs group. And like I just said for Brookfield, this is a trap game for Lisbon. I don't think you can take this Palestine team as light as you could have in recent years because they've stuck it to a couple of teams.
Well, I think I kind of agree with you on that part. I'm going to go out and say I'm going to pick East Palestine because, I know Lisbon, they're playing Toronto Southern and Valley Christian, 3 really good teams back in 3 straight weeks, but giving up at least 40 points in those games, and like you said, throwing in the injury part of it too. They got some injury problems going on too. I just don't think that bodes well in the game to kind of pick them in. So I'm gonna actually pick East Palestine.
I'm going Bulldogs as well. I like them. I think that they do come in with that chip on their shoulder. You got to win 1. You haven't had a 2-win season in a long time.
Yeah,
go out here and do it. This is your shot. You only have 1 more shot after this, and it's against Columbiana on the road. You don't have another shot at home this season to get a win. United Southern, I don't think they pick up wins. I don't think they stand a chance in those games. That's unfortunate. I wish they did. It'd be cool to see the Bulldogs do something. I don't think it's their season though. But if they want 2 wins, which I think right now has to be a goal for this East Palestine Bulldogs program, get 2 wins in a season. One of them either comes here, one comes against Columbiana potentially. If they can win this, they have potentially 3 wins on their season. They would triple what they've done in the last 4 years.
Yeah,
this is a big year for East Palestine to start turning this program around. Games like these are the games that in the future this Bulldog program knows they should win. This year, you got to fight for it. You got to put everything on the line. They have to come out swinging. Can't pull any punches. After what I saw out of Lisbon, I think they're a little degenerated. I hope they come back with a vengeance and do something with the last half of their season. Until I see it happen, after what I saw, I'm all Bulldogs here.
Well, I think too for a team like them, whether it's this game or another game on the rest of the remaining part of the schedule, you got to get a signature win. Like I always say with teams that are trying to rebuild, trying to find momentum, you have to get a win where nobody's expecting you, or at least 75% of people aren't picking you to win. Whether it's this game again, like I said, whether it's this one or some of the other ones we're reading on the schedule, they got to get one. I think, like you said, this is a good one to kind of get tonight, tomorrow night. To kind of get some momentum here and try to get a program that has not been good recently. So nobody likes to lose. We'll see what they can do.
Wonderful. Sorry, I'm working a little behind the scenes on a secondary project, but Garfield Champion, our next game up here. This one's in Champion. Garfield, they've been next to unstoppable. The only team we've seen do it is a top team in Division 7 football in Warren, JFK. Champion, they showed some kinks early. They lost to that same JFK team. They lost to Rootstown. Since then, they've been good. They've been really, really good. And from when I saw them from that game against Newton Falls, I was unsure. In that game, though, they really turned things around. They got their defense solidified after that first quarter. And I think since that first quarter of Newton Falls, I haven't really seen them struggle. They went up and they won the game they were supposed to last week. Only problem is, I don't think this is a game they're supposed to win because Garfield is outstanding. Really, really outstanding. And outside of JFK, much like Brookfield, they haven't allowed more than 2 touchdowns to a single opponent. In fact, I'm double-checking this one. I think they did let 2 touchdowns week 1 to Cardinal. It was 12 points. I'm like, all right, how did those 12 come? I think those came on 2 touchdowns. So they haven't allowed more than 2 touchdowns to a single opponent. We haven't really seen Champions defense hold the team down that low. That's my one problem coming into it. I think they have offense that might be able to stay with Garfield's offense. I don't think they have an offense that's going to go up against Garfield's defense that is going to keep them going, because I don't think their defense is going to stop Garfield's offense. I know I just said a lot of names there.
I got a little confused there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was going to say, I need to draw a map on this.
You lost me.
Basically speaking, I don't think they have enough to hold with Garfield on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Champions had a good year so far, 3-2 at the midway point. The Garfield's
And
another
they
team.
have a good schedule to finish out too. This is likely a 6-win team.
Yeah, I'd say at least 6. But Garfield's another team. We've talked about some teams this year or so far today that are teams that are normally pretty strong. That's one of them. I like what Champions done so far, but nothing's really eye popping because they played some teams like LeBray. That's one of their wins. They're struggling this year. Newton Falls, they're in that kind of same category. But I got to give Garfield. I think they're clearly better. I don't want to say clearly, but I think they're just better in this matchup.
I think you just have to look at them as maybe one of the best teams around. I mean, outside of the one loss to a team that might go ahead and win state for their division, this team's been unstoppable. I think you can go ahead and say Garfield is a better team until you beat the man. You know, you always hear it. To be the man, you got to beat the man. If Champion wants to come in and be top dog, take it. Go in there. Prove us all wrong. Do it. I dare you.
And I think Champion's got this thing that, the team's better than you. They're coming to our place. Let's try to show people.
Next game, Geneva and Orange. Geneva's coming off a loss to Kirtland. It was just their second time going down in the season. They don't necessarily have the best offense, and that's cost them in their 2 defensive battles against Madison and Kirtland. But they're going against an Orange squad whose defense has allowed 219 points in 5 games on the season. It's going to be a rough one for Orange. It's been a rough season so far. It's not getting any easier. It's a hard conference to play football in up there, up by the lake. And all these people love physical, hard-nosed football. Perry, Kirtland, Edgewood, Chagrin Falls, Geneva, Lakeside, all really good teams. There are 2 teams in this conference with a losing record, West Geauga and Orange. And that is it. If that doesn't show you how good this conference up in Chagrin Falls is, I don't know what will. I'm taking Geneva, though. They've been really good. I'm discounting the loss last week to Kirtland. You don't beat Kirtland. They haven't beat Kirtland in a while. It just isn't something that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find an upset to kind of pick this week, but this isn't one of them. Geneva look like some of the teams they beat too. I just think they're a better team right now. Orange is struggling. They're in a halfway point too, where they're, you're rebuilding this year. I think at this midway point, you're a struggling team without a win, maybe 1 win. It's just trying to get through the end of the season. I think that's kind of where they're at right now. So I got to go Geneva.
Yeah, this is a group, though, in Orange, though, that had 3 straight wins against Geneva from 2016 through 2018.
Yeah.
So perhaps they can do it. They've lost 2 straight since then, and it hasn't been close. Do you have to throw this out here? Geneva hasn't beat Kirtland since 2009. So last week, not unexpected.
Yeah.
This is another big game that we're about to go into. Hubbard and Jefferson, both 4-1. Hubbard has shown us some struggles this season. I think there's room for concern. They still won, and they still got a good shot to make it to the playoffs if they can manage this rough NE8 crowd this season. Jefferson coming in, their only slip-up has been against that really, really good Girard team of yours, Mike. And now they got a shot at home. Jefferson's at home in this game. Hubbard's coming in on the road. Their boy in TC Caffey just scored at the next level on an awesome touchdown, maybe the best run in Ohio State's recent history in the last 5 years. But that's Scott's College. That was your best guy last year. Who's it going to be this year? Who's stepping up in a game like this when you need it? They lost to Poland, shocking upset, and they got sent late in the overtime against Struthers last week and pulled it out 21-14. You need to bounce back. There's been clear struggles. They have a really good defense. I think that's clear and obvious. But is the offense going to keep you in this game? We saw Jefferson go up against a good defense in Girard, and they got stopped. They went up against a good defense in Niles, and they got slowed down. Now I think we really see what Hubbard's defense is made out of, and we have comparisons on the other side. If their defense is good like we think it is, Hubbard can win this game. If it's good, but it's on the same level of Niles, Jefferson's going to win just like they did against Niles just last week. I'm making my pick here. I'm going Jefferson. It's at home. That gives me a little bit of a nod towards them. And when you need defense to come to play, I don't know what to make of it until I see it.
Yeah, I think too that you're gonna have to start scoring the ball too, because we've seen some teams in all levels that if you have an average offense but your defense is really, really solid, your defense is gonna get tired out too. So you got to find ways to score. I'm actually gonna pick Hubbard in this one too. Or against you, because I think that they're on the road. It's gonna be a little bit tough. Your defense usually does play good no matter where it's at. But I think I kind of like them to kind of get something going on offense this week, so I'm going to go Harvard.
I like it. Picking against me.
Yeah.
Lakeview and Struthers. I think this is a real big game for them Wildcats, Mike. They're playing at home. They kept it close these last 3 weeks against Streetsboro, South Range, and Hubbard. Their time is coming. And after a loss last week for Lakeview at home, 49-0, I think momentum is clear on the side of these Wildcats, despite the fact they've been losing. I think Lakeview is about to have a big old letdown. Give me the Wildcats.
Yeah, I agree too. Both these teams are struggling too, but I think it's, you got the home field advantage too. I'm kind of big on that, so I'm going to go Struthers.
McDonald against Springfield. There's another one of those games I look at. Yeah, McDonald has the better record. They're coming off a win, but for the first time this year, so is Springfield, and they just upset the top team in the MVAC Scarlet going into last week in Mineral Ridge, a team a lot of people were picking to take home that conference after Springfield went down early in the year. Now, I think Springfield has positioned themselves well for conference play. They are 1-1 in conference. They still have a shot to win this conference despite a 1-4 start to the year. They are tied for second with Ridge, McDonald, and Jackson Milton. And now they can, knock themselves up a peg if they take down McDonald this week. Then they'd have the win over Mineral Ridge, and they'd be positioned in third place behind Waterloo and Lowville, who, guess it, they're going up against one another this week. And Springfield, they got off to the slow start. Here comes conference play, though. I was down. I didn't think they were doing well at the start of the season. I was waiting for a game like Ridge where they finally proved me wrong before I went, all right, now I'm ready to believe in them. They have a hard schedule. It's going to be rough to finish this year out. But this is one of those games you got to take. You need to take this one. You need to take Western Reserve. You need to take Sebring. And then maybe we'll see what Jackson Milton is. I want to see how Jackson Milton responds to that Lowellville loss last week, because 62-20, that I want to see how they respond. But that week 9 matchup becomes very interesting. If Springfield can take down McDonald, maybe take down Waterloo next week, Springfield can still win this conference and make the playoffs. I saw this team in Sean Guerrero week 2 of the season. He said, we're not great now. We're going to have struggles to start the season. We're going to make young mistakes, but I'm going to have them ready to go by playoff time. I said, all right. I believed it. In those first few weeks, I went with what he told me. We're going to have mistakes. We're going to have bad games. And they did. They played well against Slowville. That gave them hope. That made them win it against Ridge. Now you're going to take it against McDonald as well. I'm going Tigers in this one. And I got a strong inclination these Tigers are going to start turning things around this last half of the year.
It's because of those first 4 games they lost, starting at 0-4. Those are tough games. And like you said, especially that last one against Lowville that they lost, they found a way to hang in there. I think, Springfield's kind of like what I was just saying about Harding. Sometimes you can't always look at the record. Sometimes you can look at who they played. Springfield's that category, and I think they're going to start turning things around. Like you said, maybe this Ridge game from last week was a momentum shifter. So I'm actually going to pick them as well in this matchup against McDonald, because I think they're setting themselves up. They still got to go out and do it. That's the big thing, but they're setting themselves up.
I like it. I got the Tigers. They got the eye of the tiger this week. West Branch at home against the 0-4 Minerva. This one's quick, man. Drew DeShields and his boys are clicking at the moment. And really, it's been that Canfield loss is the one blemish on this team's record this season. No one else has played them close. No one else has been within 30 outside of Canfield. West Branch rules this one. Shoot, 48-13, 48-7.
Oh, you're going to score too.
I'll go 48-7. I think West Branch is going to steamroll in this game.
I'm not going to make a score because I think it's hard to do at any level, but especially in high school. I'm definitely going to go West Branch to make it short, but I don't really have too much of a reasoning, just that they're a better team.
This next matchup I really like. I think that there's a good shot for either team to pull it. Niles at 2-3, going on the road into Poland, who is also 2-3. Both teams coming off a loss. The one thing for me, and why I think I might be leaning towards the Bulldogs in this game, the way they've gone about things. Start of the season, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Statistically, you should be able to tell me that there's a clear pattern there, and that should mean a win this week for this group. And I'm seeing a loss next week to Girard, maybe a win against Lakeview, a loss against Jefferson, a win against Struthers. They have a clear pattern that is lining up for me this season for this group. Math guy, I like numbers. This is a number game for me right now. Poland's got my edge. I think a little bit, but I don't think we have to rule out Niles just yet. They've had a good season, 2 wins against Howland and Independence. I like it. The Independence win looked a lot better when they picked it up. Howland maybe was better when they got it up as well. But losses to Alliance, Lakeview, Jefferson, it's been hard for them. They need something to get going for them, and I think they come out with an extra vengeance here, what I believe is homecoming weekend for Poland as well. And I think they really try and make this an upset. It's going to be a big game between these two because it sets up the last half of the season with both these groups trying to make it towards 500.
I like how you're kind of following that trend there. Like you're right through their schedule. But, yeah, both, if you want to call an upset, go ahead. I'm actually going to pick Niles in this one too. I think these teams are evenly matched. Or not, I don't know what record-wise they are, but I think they're not too far off from each other. Like you said, Niles kind of had some tough ones the last 2 weeks that they weren't able to pull out. But I think I kind of like. I'm going to pick a road team here because I haven't picked many today, so I'll go Niles.
I like it. The one win that's standing out for me with this Poland team is they took down Hubbard, a Hubbard team that we all pretty much unanimously took in that game, I believe. I don't think anybody picked Poland for that upset.
Yeah.
So to see that happen, see the way this Poland team has gone about their business since then, I really think you have to look at them as, hey, they've had a hard schedule, and I don't think you can say they haven't because, have they. And they got one of the wins they weren't supposed to get. After a 34-2 week 1 and a 31-7 week 3, I don't think anybody thought they were going to go in and take down Hubbard the way they did. Then they lost the next week to South Range. This is an up and down roller coaster if you've ever seen one team. But now they get to play at home. And there's only their third time at home this season. They lost one big, and then they won a big one against Hubbard. I think the Bulldogs prevail.
Okay.
Final game here that we're going over on today's show. Beaver Local, an impressive Beaver Local at that. They've won 3 in a row after having the rocky start to the season. They are going up against the Oak Glen Golden Bears of New Cumberland, West Virginia, who are 1-3, but it's a big one in that 1-3. They put down Toronto last week, a group that I think just about everybody was looking at as, man, they're going to make some noise as this season goes on because they had ran through a pretty nice slate of EOAC teams in Wellsville, East Palestine, Lisbon. Then they went and took down Buckeye Local. They got a nice schedule to finish out the year. And everyone was looking, man, that Toronto team, that's a good one. They should have rolled over this Golden Bears team. They took them lightly. Oak Glen came in to Toronto to take that game. Now they come into Beaver, and they're going to try and do it again. I don't know if they get it done. I'm going Homer in this one. I like Beaver to take this game. They've been on a hot streak, 24 points allowed in their last 3 games, and they put up 131 points. Looks pretty all right to me. I'll take that any day of the week. They've been outscoring opponents by 100. I like it. Give me Beaver Local.
Okay. Oak Glen got that big one last week against Toronto. That's, like I said, it's kind of one that not many people were probably picking them in. It's hard to do that back-to-back weeks, but why not? It's high school. I'm gonna roll with Oak Glen.
Fair enough. All right, Mike. Well, that ends it off for where I'm stopping. I'm going to give you a shot, though, since you're not going to be on the show tomorrow. Talk your alma mater, South Range and Girard. I hand the floor to you.
Well, I'm not going to act like because a lot of the guys in Girard I don't know, but I've been keeping up with their team this year, with trying to look at the scores and stuff, and they really do look good. This is a team that normally under Coach Pearson, that's a defensive-minded team. I still think they are. But their offense is really one of them games this year. And I think, you're going up against South Range teams pretty similar. That's why I said at the beginning of the show that I thought this is one that we should kind of be circling if we're not. Gerard's got the fortunes behind this one at home, too. So that's going to help them out, too. 2 5-0 teams. This is really good. But I think with Gerard's offense, too, going up against Lakeview, Jefferson, all these teams that played Liberty, Streetsboro, they're putting up at least, besides the one game against Jefferson, at least 40 points a game. So that's going to be hard for South Range to stop too, but Gerard's also got to deal with their offense too as well. I don't think this is going to be a shootout type of game. I think when you're going against teams that both have high power type offense, I think there's going to be some tighten up on defense. So I guess I'll go out and give my pick. I'm going to pick Gerard.
I like to hear it, Mike. Going Homer, I knew it was going to be that case, but still, I know you said at the beginning of the show, oh man, this one's flying under the radar. I figured I'd let you shed some light on it. Yeah.
it's a team in South Range. Like, YSN knows that a lot of guys on this network cover them, and they're for good reasons because they're a good team. Normally pretty hard. And I think, like I said, Gerard's usually pretty solid too, at least on the defensive side of the ball. I think this year's been a little bit different with them scoring a lot of points. So I'm gonna go with them at home too.
Another big game that we're going to talk about tomorrow, Warren JFK and Mogador. There's so many great games going on in this week 6.
There is a lot this weekend.
But, Mike, speaking of a big game going on tonight, I believe you're wearing one of the 2 jerseys. Thursday Night Football, we're going to finish out the show since it's happening tonight, and it features our 2 closest NFL teams, so we can still say it's regional. Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns. Pretty much everybody you know is going to have one of these 2 teams as their favorite in the NFL. I mean, where we are, there are a lot of Pittsburghans, a lot of Yinzers, I should say, and a lot of Browns.
Get it right.
Yeah, a lot of Yinzers up in these parts. I'm not familiar with it. I'm from Akron, Browns country out there.
I should wear my shirt. I have a shirt with all the words that like Pittsburghers say.
Oh God!
So I should have worn that today, but maybe I'll bring it out for another day.
That'd be great. Hey, if they win, you can wear it next Tuesday.
Yeah, I can.
But let's talk about this game. Cleveland right now, they've been given a 57.9% chance to win the game. They are favored by 4 points in the spread. It's a game that not many people are going to be able to watch because it's on Prime Video. Thursday Night Football's moved there. Nobody likes it.
Nope.
Is what it is. Browns got one thing going for them. Better offense, but Steelers still have the better defense. That's the way things have been going.
Even without TJ.
Last couple of years, yeah.
I think. But this one, I think that kind of favors the Browns is that, last week, that horrific loss that they had. But you have a quick turnaround, and it's at home too, though. That's Alec, I'm kind of helping you out here.
Yeah.
Not by bringing that up, but I'm just saying with horrific loss at home, you had a quick turnaround to come play a Thursday game. So it's either going to be really good with their mindsets because, you're going to get up for this game regardless of what you did last week because it's a rivalry game. And you're at home. It's Thursday night. It's the only pro game on TV. But you can also come out still kind of flat because I heard they had players-only meeting too this week. After 2 weeks, you're having a player-only meeting.
Good.
So it is good, but I'm just saying that's also not because it's still early. I don't know.
It's early, but I like the shift in mindset. Right? This is a Browns team that's no longer accepting games like what happened last week. It's a different mindset mentality this year that, hey, let's stop being bottom feeders or middle of the pack. We have a really good roster. Really good roster. I don't think anybody doubts that they have a great roster. This is a team that needs to come together regardless of what Stefanski's play calling is going to be. They have to go out there and execute and win this game. And they do it via Chubb. Both these teams need to figure out what their offense is going to be this season because it seemed kind of pass heavy for Jacoby Brissett, but at the same time, Nick Chubb's still getting about 20 carries per game.
Yeah.
And for the love of it, can Najee Harris average more than 3.2 yards per carry? Actually, I think he's under that. I think he's at 2.9. If this guy is going to live up to all the hype that he was getting billed with last year, and this is why I said I think he was overrated last year because his numbers lied. He averaged 2.9 yards per carry and finished top 5 in the league because they had no quarterback last year. Same case this year. You have I'll say an outright terrible quarterback in Trubisky so far. He has not done anything. Yeah, and a big part of that is that offensive line. You got to come in here against a team that's not playing with 2 of their big defensive ends and Chase Winovich and Jadeveon Clowney. Myles Garrett was cleared. He will play in the game, and that's the big focal point for the Browns. They need to get there with Myles Garrett. But I'm worried about this Browns offense because they've played well enough. They haven't played good, though.
Yeah. I just think, too, with obviously a lot of things do kind of point to the Browns this game, too. A little bit better offense, I think, in this one. At least, I still think they have better quarterback play, too, over Mitch Trubisky. But
yeah,
offensive line's a lot better. Better running game, too. I think the problem with Najee Harris is, again, I'm not trying to say it's not his fault because the offensive line is really bad. But I saw highlights in this, especially in the game against the Patriots last week, that there was a lot of holes that he missed that he could have broke for. So I think he's not seeing that, for whatever reason, he's just not seeing the holes right now that he should be breaking through. And I think, a lot of the noise out of the Pittsburgh area is that when are we going to Kenny Pickett in the game? Well, do you really want to put him in a game like this where it's a quick turnaround? You're playing a team. The Steelers up front have a terrible offensive line. Do you want to put him in a situation like this against a team
against Myles Garrett?
Well, I don't even. Is he playing tonight? I've heard that
Garrett is playing. Jadeveon Clowney is not. I heard that this morning on the radio.
But still, I mean, okay, against Browns defense, I know what their secondary is not that great, but they're pretty good up front. Do you want to put a bad offensive line? You want to put Kenny Pickett out there? I don't.
No.
Until that improves, I'm not putting him out there.
No, I think that's the big thing. People are going to keep calling for Pickett, and rightfully so, when you have a quarterback in Trubisky that's ranked 32nd in yards per attempt, who, by the way, also came out of Northeast Ohio. Don't know if anybody knows that, but Northeast Ohio kid. But he hates the Browns, so he's had that going for him. But how many kids grew up in this region hating the Browns? I think it's a good amount, because it has been an awful 22 years of watching them play football. So with that being said, I got the Brownies. Everybody knows you're taking the Steelers. No point to pick on this one. How about final scores? We'll do that instead. I'm going Browns in an ugly one, 20-18, 2019. How about that?
That's around where I was going to go. I think it's going to be low scoring. I don't think both teams even get 20 points. I think it's going to be.
I think winner hits 20.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think both teams will be in 20s. I think I'm going to go Steelers 21 to. How about a weird one? 21-16.
Okay, I like it. Well, that is going to do it here for us on day one of our high school football extravaganza, with a pinch of NFL since it's going on tonight. But I've been Alec Berna. That's Mike Wolfgang. Power Hour coming up next on your sports network. Matt Morrison will rejoin the show tomorrow as we get set for day two of our extravaganza. We'll see you then.